Before we begin, I want you to notice something about the way you speak to yourself. Not out loud, in your head. The stream of comments that no one hears but you. The voice that shows up when you're tired, when you mess up, when you look in the mirror, when you say, "You'll change," and then repeat the same pattern again. For a lot of people, that voice is not supportive. It's not neutral. It's violent. It's sarcastic. It's tired of you. And I want you to sit with how heavy that is. You live with that voice every day. You wake up to it. You go to sleep with it. You spend your entire life inside it. We talk a lot about toxic relationships, but we almost never admit that the most abusive relationship most people are in is with themselves. If you spoke to a friend the way you speak to yourself on a bad day, they would leave you. They would block your number. They would never come back. But you can't block the voice in your own head. You're trapped with it. And that's why this matters. Because your mind learns from repetition. If you keep feeding yourself, "I'm done, I'm weak, I'll never be different," your nervous system believes it. You start acting like a defeated person, even when you're not defeated. You start walking like you've already lost, even when the game isn't over. So when I say talk to yourself like someone who wants better, I'm not saying stand in the mirror and fake positivity. I'm saying speak to yourself like you actually care about where your life is going. Speak like someone who is invested. Speak like someone who plans to still be here tomorrow and wants to hand that future version of you something they can use, not just a pile of damage they'll have to clean up. This is self-respect. This is self-protection. This is strategy. It's not soft. It's not weak. It's how you start building a mind that's on your side instead of against you. Stop talking to yourself like an enemy. There's a moment that most people don't notice because it happens fast. Something goes wrong. You're late again. You eat something you said you wouldn't. You skip the workout. You send the text you promised yourself you wouldn't send. And instantly, the first reaction in your mind is attack. You don't pause. You don't breathe. You go straight to, "What is wrong with you?" You go straight to, "You're pathetic." You go straight to, "You said you'd change." You never change. And in that moment, you think you're being honest. You think you're being tough. But what you're really doing is this. You're teaching your brain that you are the problem instead of the behavior being the problem. That difference sounds small, but it will shape your whole life. Because once you label yourself as the problem, you stop trying to fix the behavior. Why would you? If you believe, "I'm just weak," there's nothing to fix. If you believe, "This is just who I am," then of course you're going to repeat the same pattern tomorrow. You've already accepted the identity. You've already surrendered. The attack becomes the excuse. And I want you to feel how quietly dangerous that is. Calling yourself names doesn't make you stronger. It makes you numb. It kills responsibility by pretending to be responsibility. "I'm trash" sounds like you're owning it, but it's actually the opposite. It lets you avoid doing the harder, scarier work, asking, "Why did I just do that? What triggered me? Where did I break?" The insult is easier than the analysis. Insult lets you feel like you took action when you actually didn't. There's another problem. When you constantly talk to yourself like an enemy, you start expecting attack from the outside, even when it's not there. You get defensive with people who aren't attacking you. You push away people who are trying to help you. You assume judgment in situations where nobody is judging you. You sabotage connection because you're already living in a war zone in your own head. You're trained for conflict. You're always ready to protect yourself. You don't know how to receive support anymore because you don't even offer it to yourself. And it goes deeper. That enemy tone in your mind becomes your baseline emotional state. You wake up already irritated with yourself. The day hasn't even started, and you're already behind in your own story. You already should have done more yesterday. You already don't look good enough. You already aren't moving fast enough. You haven't even had water yet, and you're in debt to your own expectations. How do you think a mind like that behaves for the rest of the day? Calm, focused, present, number. It goes into survival mode. And a brain in survival mode does not build a new life. It just tries to get through the next hour without collapsing. That's why you feel stuck. So let me offer you a quiet shift. Instead of "what is wrong with you?" try "okay. Where exactly did we fall?" That may sound small. It's not. One is hatred. The other is leadership. Hatred wants to punish you, so you feel pain. Leadership wants to understand you, so you can move forward. One keeps you in the past. The other walks you into tomorrow. Talking to yourself like someone who wants better starts with refusing to attack yourself as if you are useless. You are not useless. You are undisciplined in certain areas, maybe. You are emotionally triggered sometimes, yes. You are tired. You are overwhelmed. You are carrying more than you admit. You are human. But useless? Number. Be honest. If someone you love spoke to you and said, "I messed up again. I don't know why I keep doing this," would you look them in the eye and say, "Yeah, because you're disgusting"? You wouldn't. You know you wouldn't. So why is that the first thing you tell yourself? Here's what happens when you stop talking to yourself like an enemy. You create space for responsibility without shame. You can say, "I did something that hurt me," without adding, "and I deserve to suffer forever." That space is everything. That space is the doorway to change, because you are still allowed to show up tomorrow. Your identity is not already ruined. And I want to be very clear. This is not about letting yourself off the hook. It's the opposite. When you stop wasting energy hating yourself, you actually have energy to correct yourself. You finally have room to ask, "What's the pattern here?" You finally have room to say, "How do I set up my environment so this is less likely to happen again?" You finally have room to build systems instead of building guilt. Maybe this is the hardest truth in this first point. You cannot build a disciplined life on self-disgust. You can scare yourself into short bursts of action, yes, but you cannot build a stable, focused, long-term path from a place of self-hate. It always collapses, always. It burns hot and dies. The people who last are not the ones who scream at themselves the loudest. They're the ones who decided, "I'm on my own side. I'm not leaving myself behind again." So ask yourself this, and don't answer fast. When you talk to yourself, especially after you slip, are you trying to help yourself recover, or are you trying to make yourself bleed? Because the answer to that question is telling you exactly why you heal slow, and why you haven't changed the way you say you want to change. 2. Speak to yourself like a coach, not a judge. There's a big difference between judgment and guidance, and the mind feels that difference immediately. Judgment says, "You failed. You always do." Guidance says, "We missed here. Here's how we fix it." Judgment freezes you in shame. Guidance moves you toward correction. And I want you to really sit with this, because most people think they're being disciplined when they're actually just being cruel. A judge's job is to declare guilt and deliver punishment. That's it. A judge doesn't care if you grow. A judge doesn't walk home with you after the verdict and help you rebuild your habits so you stop ending up in the same courtroom every week. A judge just stamps you, labels you, and sends you away carrying that label like a tattoo on your forehead. A judge says, "You're lazy," not "You're exhausted and running on 5 hours of sleep," and we're going to start protecting your nights. A judge says, you have no self-control, not, you're stressed and reaching for comfort, so we're going to create a different way to release pressure instead of scrolling or snacking or calling the person you know you shouldn't call. A judge wants to be right about you. A coach wants to see you win. So let me ask you honestly, which voice lives in your head more often? Because here is what happens when you talk to yourself like a judge. You become terrified of making mistakes. You start playing not to lose instead of playing to grow. You avoid taking risks, not because you're lazy, but because you know what's waiting for you if you slip. That internal courtroom, that interrogation, that voice that says, here we go again. Pathetic. You would rather stay small than face that voice. You would rather take no action than take action, and then have to hear the post-game humiliation from your own mind. And then you call that lack of motivation. It's not lack of motivation, it's self-protection. Being your own judge keeps you scared of yourself. Now let's flip it. When you talk to yourself like a coach, something different happens. A real coach doesn't say, you're trash. A real coach says, I see where you're messing up, and I refuse to leave you there. That's powerful. Do you feel the difference? I refuse to leave you there. That's loyalty. That's commitment. That's love with a backbone. A coach looks at the same problem and breaks it down. A coach talks in strategy. A coach says, okay, you're hitting snooze 3 times every morning, which means by the time you're up, you're already behind and stressed. We're not doing that tomorrow. We're moving your phone across the room so you have to physically stand up to turn off the alarm. You stand, you drink water, you wash your face. No thinking, just move. See how that feels different? There's no insult. There's no spiritual drama. It's just, we're doing this now. Simple, direct, focused. When you speak to yourself like that, clean, specific, forward, you stop negotiating with your weakness and you start creating instructions for your strength. And this is important. Your brain loves instructions. Your brain loves clarity. Your brain calms down when it knows what to do next. That's why you feel so chaotic when all you tell yourself is, do better. Do better is not a plan. Do better is emotional noise. Here's what we're doing next, is a plan. Another thing, a coach gives context. A coach looks at you when you're breaking and says, you're tired, but you're not done. We're not quitting here. We're not throwing the whole day away because of one mistake at 2 p.m. We reset. Right now, that voice matters because it teaches you recovery speed. Most people don't understand this. Growth is not about never slipping. It's about shortening the time between the slip and the reset. The faster you come back, the less damage the mistake does. The less damage it does, the less shame you carry. The less shame you carry, the more energy you have to build. That is coaching. That is what you owe yourself. And I'll tell you something else that nobody likes to admit. A lot of people secretly enjoy the judge voice because judgment feels dramatic, and drama feels like intensity, and intensity feels like effort. You yell at yourself and it feels like you did something. It feels like discipline, but nothing actually changes. You just get tired and heavy and guilty. You get that emotional hangover from attacking yourself, and now you're too drained to act. So the cycle continues. Mistake, self-attack, exhaustion, repeat. A coach doesn't need drama. A coach needs honesty, consistency, and quiet pressure. We're getting up. We're not calling them. We're eating something real, not just sugar. We're finishing what we started, even if it's ugly. It's not loud. It's not cinematic. It's just solid. You can build a life on that. And I know there's a part of you that thinks, but if I go easier on myself, won't I just become comfortable and lazy? Let me answer that directly. Talking to yourself like a coach is not going easier on yourself. It's going smarter on yourself. It's holding yourself accountable in a way you can actually sustain through stress, heartbreak, disappointment, fatigue, and real life. Screaming at yourself is not strength. It's panic. Calm direction in the middle of chaos, that's strength. So here's the shift. The next time you mess up, not if, but when, because you're human, instead of saying, unbelievable, you're hopeless, I want you to say, we're not staying here. That's it. 5 words. We're not staying here. That sentence alone carries structure, compassion, and authority. It tells your nervous system, yes, we fell. No, this is not permanent. Here's the line. We're moving. That's how you start building trust with yourself. You show yourself that even when you fall, you don't abandon yourself. You stay, you guide, you lead, you keep your hand on your own shoulder. And slowly, over time, you stop being afraid of your own mind. You stop walking on eggshells around your own reaction. You start to believe, if I break, I won't be humiliated by me. I'll be helped by me. And that belief alone makes you braver, calmer, and more willing to try again. This is where real change begins. Not when you destroy yourself for being imperfect, but when you refuse to leave yourself in the same place you fell. 3. Separate guilt from responsibility. There's a sentence almost everyone says without really understanding how toxic it is. The sentence is, I feel so guilty. It sounds mature. It sounds like awareness. It sounds like you're taking ownership. But most of the time, guilt is not helping you grow. Most of the time, guilt is just you sitting in a dark room, replaying what happened, punishing yourself emotionally, calling that punishment morality, and then doing nothing different tomorrow. Let me be clear, responsibility is powerful. Responsibility is sacred. Responsibility is, I did this, no excuses, I own it. Stoic thinkers lived inside that idea, not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they understood that if you don't own your actions, you can't steer your life. Responsibility is, I created this result, so I can create a different result. That mindset gives you control. That mindset gives you energy. Guilt, on the other hand, is heavy but empty. Guilt says, I'm disgusting. Guilt says, I ruin everything. Guilt makes the problem equal to your identity. And the second you do that, the second you confuse what you did with what you are, you lock the door on change. If you say, I made a weak decision tonight, you can learn from that. You can ask, why tonight? What was I feeling? What was I avoiding? What was I craving? You can map the pattern. You can say, next time I feel that same pull, I'm going to step outside, breathe, drink water, and text a friend who actually supports me instead of running back to what hurts me. That's responsibility. That's strategy. That's movement. But if you say, I'm weak, you've already ended the conversation. There's nowhere to go from there. You've reduced yourself down to one moment, as if that's all you are. And once you label yourself as the flaw, your brain stops looking for solutions, because why would it? You can't solve you. This is why separating guilt from responsibility matters. It's not some soft psychological trick. It's survival. If you keep telling yourself, I'm the problem, you'll eventually believe you're not worth fixing. And people who believe they're not worth fixing stop fighting for themselves. They settle for pain because they think pain is what they deserve. I don't want that for you. So here's what I want you to practice. When you fall short, Describe the action, not your identity. Say, I lied there, not I'm a liar. Say, I avoided the work, not I'm a failure. Say, I broke my promise, not I am the kind of person who will always break promises. This is not about protecting your ego, it's about keeping the door open. As long as the door is open, you can walk back through it stronger. Now, some people will say, but isn't that letting myself off the hook? It's putting yourself on the correct hook. The goal is not to feel horrible. The goal is to fix the behavior. Feeling horrible without fixing anything is self-indulgence dressed up as morality. You're not a better person because you sat in guilt for 6 hours. You're just more tired. And tomorrow you'll make the same choice because nothing was actually rebuilt. Responsibility sounds like this. I disrespected my own boundary today. I said I wouldn't text them. I texted them. I know exactly why I did it. I felt lonely. I wanted validation. I wanted to feel wanted for a second. That's the pattern. I see it. I'm not proud of it. I'm changing it. Tonight I'm deleting that thread so it's not easy. I'm blocking for real, not just saying I will. And when the loneliness hits tomorrow, I'm not acting on it. I'm letting it pass through me without turning it into self-destruction. Do you hear the difference? That is not softness, that is steel. And I need you to hear this part gently but directly. You deserve to correct yourself without hating yourself. You're allowed to say, I was wrong, without adding, and I am unlovable. You're allowed to say, I disappointed myself today, without adding, and I guess I'll always be a disappointment. You're allowed to say, that was beneath me, and still believe there is a version of you that stands taller. This is emotional adulthood. This is how people who actually grow talk to themselves. They don't waste nights drowning in, I'm awful. They study what happened, they accept it, and they build a plan so it's less likely to repeat. That's responsibility. That's love in practice, and it's love pointed at you. So ask yourself this, and answer with complete honesty. When you feel guilty, do you actually change, or do you just sit in the feeling until it fades and then repeat the pattern? Because if guilt isn't leading to change, then it's not responsibility. It's self-punishment. And self-punishment is not growth. It's just slow self-abandonment with nice language. We are not doing self-abandonment anymore. 4. Don't let mood rewrite the truth. There are days when your mind feels like it's telling you the truth, and it's not. It's just tired. It's hungry. It's lonely. It's burned out. It's running on 4 hours of sleep and 1,000 unsolved problems. But in that state, your brain doesn't say, hey, I'm low on energy, filter what I'm saying. It says, listen to me. This is reality, and that is dangerous. Because in those moments, your mood starts pretending to be truth. You wake up heavy, and instantly the mind goes, I'm failing. One slow morning, and suddenly it becomes, my whole life is falling apart. One ignored text, and it becomes, nobody cares about me. One task you couldn't finish, and it becomes, I'm not built for this. And the problem is, in that moment, you believe it. You don't question it. You don't stop and say, wait, is this fact? Or is this how I feel right now? You just swallow it. You wear it. You start moving like it's already proven. And this is where a lot of people quietly lose months of their lives, not because of reality, because of story, a story that was born in exhaustion and got treated like evidence. I want you to hear this clearly. A low state in you will always try to create a low story about you. That's how the brain justifies how it feels. The brain doesn't like saying, I'm just depleted right now. The brain likes saying, no, There's a reason I feel like this, and the reason is, I'm not enough, nobody respects me, the future is pointless. The mood goes looking for a narrative to attach to, and the narrative becomes identity if you're not careful. This is why people quit goals they actually care about, not because the goal was impossible, but because they had one dark weekend and made permanent decisions inside that darkness. You've seen this in yourself. You have one rough day at the gym, and your mind doesn't say, "Today was rough." It says, "I'll never be consistent. I'll never change my body. Why am I even trying?" You spend money you shouldn't have spent, and your mind doesn't say, "I slipped." It says, "I'm financially stupid. I'll always be broke. I'm not meant for discipline." You text someone you said you'd stop talking to, and instead of saying, "This is loneliness and craving," you go to, "I'm weak. I'm pathetic. I can't move on." Do you notice the pattern? The mind keeps trying to convert a temporary state into a lifelong identity. This is where talking to yourself, like someone who wants better, becomes critical, because someone who wants better doesn't let a wave convince them the whole ocean is poisoned. Someone who wants better pauses. That pause is the difference between self-destruction and self-control. The pause sounds like this. Hold on. What actually happened today? Not the drama. The facts. When you do that, most of the time the truth is way less catastrophic than your mood made it. The truth is usually something like, "I slept late. I skipped breakfast. Work hit me all at once. My social battery is empty. I haven't had quiet in a week." That's not failure. That's a human being hitting capacity. But if you skip that pause, your mood will rewrite the entire story of who you are. Your tired mind will start digging in old pain just to prove its point. It'll bring back every old mistake, like evidence in a trial. Remember last year when you messed this up too? See? You're the same. You never grow. You'll start building a case against yourself using memories that are not even relevant anymore. You'll start bleeding today with wounds from 2 years ago just to make the sadness feel logical. That's how unfair your own mind can be when it's in a low state. It will time travel just to attack you. So what do you do in that moment? You answer yourself, calmly, directly, respectfully. You remind yourself of what is real, not positive fantasy, real. You say, "I feel like I'm losing everything right now, but the truth is, I'm overwhelmed. I've been carrying a lot without rest. I'm not useless. I'm not cursed. I'm just overloaded." You say, "Right now it feels like no one cares about me. But the truth is, I pushed people away this week because I didn't have the energy to talk. I'm not unloved. I'm just withdrawn." You say, "It feels like I'm not built for this goal." But the truth is, I hit resistance and I panicked. That doesn't mean I'm not built for it. It just means I'm entering the part where growth actually costs effort, and my mind is scared. That kind of self-talk is not delusion, it's correction. You're not lying to yourself, you're refusing to let emotion lie to you. And I know for some people this sounds too soft. They're used to calling themselves weak the moment they feel heavy. They confuse numbness with strength. But let me tell you something very simple. If you cannot talk yourself down from emotional distortion, you are not strong. You're uncontrolled. Strength is not, "I feel horrible, but I keep smashing forward with rage." Strength is, "I can feel horrible and still keep my mind clear enough not to destroy my own life with one bad decision." That's stoic. That's emotional discipline. That is self-government. When Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private notes, he wasn't telling himself, "You're garbage, get it together." He was reminding himself of perspective. He was reminding himself, this situation feels unbearable, but it is within human ability to bear. Others have carried worse. I can carry this. He didn't deny pain. He put pain in context. That's the practice. And I want you to start doing the same the next time your mind comes in with, I can't. That sentence, I can't, it usually doesn't mean you can't. It usually means, I don't want to feel this discomfort. I want relief. When you recognize that, the whole frame changes. You move from I'm incapable to I'm uncomfortable, and I'm uncomfortable is survivable. I'm incapable makes you shut down. There's a very personal reason this matters. The way you talk to yourself when you're at your lowest becomes the way you trust yourself when you're stable again. If every time you hit a low, you collapse into, I'm worthless, then even on good days, a part of you knows how quickly you'll turn on yourself. You don't feel safe with you, but if in your lowest hour you respond with, I'm hurting, but I'm not going to lie to myself. I'm still worthy. I'm still capable. I'm still going forward, just slower today. Then you start to build something most people never feel in their entire life: internal safety. To be able to say to yourself, even when I'm not okay, I won't betray myself, is the beginning of real peace. So here's the challenge I want you to carry. The next time that heavy voice comes in and starts declaring permanent truths about you, do not just absorb it. Ask it to show you evidence. Literally ask, show me proof that I'm a failure. Show me proof that nobody cares about me. Show me proof that I haven't grown at all. Your mind will go quiet because most of the time it doesn't have proof. It only has emotion dressed as proof. And if there is some proof, if there are places where you genuinely haven't shown up, then good. Now we're in reality. Now we can work. Now we can say, okay, this part is real, so instead of calling myself garbage, I'm going to fix this one specific part starting today. That's how you keep your self-respect. That's how you keep your direction. Your mood is allowed to be low. Your story about yourself does not have to be. 5. Give yourself orders, not excuses. There's a quiet moment that decides the direction of your life, and it doesn't look dramatic from the outside. Nobody claps. There's no music. It's not when you post your goals. It's not when you promise everyone, I'm changing. It's smaller than that. It's when you're alone, you know exactly what you should be doing, and your mind says, I don't feel like it. That one sentence, I don't feel like it, has killed more potential than failure ever did, because failure at least means you tried. I don't feel like it means you surrendered before you even stepped on the field. And here's where most people break themselves without realizing it. When I don't feel like it shows up, they negotiate with it. They keep having these long debates with their own weakness. Okay, but maybe later. Okay, but today was long. Okay, but I'm tired. Okay, but I had a stressful morning. Okay, but after I scroll for a little bit. Okay, but next Monday I'll start for real. You know this voice. You know how good it is at sounding reasonable. It's so persuasive. It sounds like it cares about you. It sounds like it's trying to protect you from burnout. But listen closely. It's not protecting you. It's protecting your comfort. Comfort is not the same thing as well-being. Comfort is short-term relief. Well-being is long-term respect. And what I want for you is long-term respect. Talking to yourself like someone who wants better means you stop letting I don't feel like it be the final answer. You stop treating mood as the boss. You stop asking your emotions for permission to act. You give yourself commands, not abuse. Commands. This is where people misunderstand discipline. They think discipline means screaming at yourself like a drill sergeant. Number. Real discipline is quieter than that. It's simpler than that. It sounds like this. Stand up. Open the laptop. Write for 5 minutes. Put on your shoes. Go outside. Wash the dishes now. Answer the email now. Shower. Then we talk. Very direct. No drama, no speech, no negotiation. Just do this now. You know why that works? Because your brain, especially when you're low energy, cannot handle vague goals. Fix your life is too big. Become successful is too big. Change everything is too big. Your system shuts down because it can't see a starting point. But stand up, it can do. Drink water, it can do. Open the document, it can do. Micro commands break inertia, and once inertia breaks, motion becomes easier than staying stuck. You've felt this. You've had days where getting started was the hardest part, and once you finally started, it wasn't actually that bad. You didn't want to go to the gym, but once you touched the weights, you kept going. You didn't want to clean the room, but once you picked up the first shirt, you ended up clearing the whole floor. You didn't want to reply to that email, but once you typed the first line, you sent 5 more. The suffering wasn't in doing it. The suffering was in the talking about doing it. That is why the negotiation has to end, because the negotiation is where your energy dies. Now, here's where this becomes personal, and I want you to be honest with yourself. When you say, "I'll do it later," do you actually mean later? Or do you mean, "I feel guilty saying no, so I'll say later to feel better about not doing it"? Be real. Because if later is always your escape hatch, your brain doesn't trust you anymore. You've trained it to associate your own promises with delay. This is why you start things with low belief. This is why you say, "I'm gonna get serious," and even you don't buy it. You've broken credibility with yourself by constantly negotiating and then bailing. And losing credibility with yourself is one of the most painful things a person can experience. You stop seeing yourself as reliable. You stop believing your own word. You start feeling like a liar in your own head. That feeling is what quietly destroys your self-esteem. Not your body, not your bank account, not your past. The fact that you can't count on you. So how do we build that back? Orders. Calm, direct orders, followed by action. "I don't feel like it" is allowed to exist. You're not a robot. You're allowed to not want to. You're allowed to be tired. You're allowed to be annoyed. You're allowed to hate that you have to push right now. You're allowed to feel all of it. But feelings get to sit in the passenger seat. They do not get the wheel. You are the one who gives the instruction. Get up. Do 5 minutes. Just 5. That's the other secret. When you give yourself an order, attach a doable time frame. 5 minutes. 10 reps. 1 paragraph. Clean just the desk, not the whole room. This removes the mind's favorite excuse. It's too much. Your mind loves "it's too much" because it's too much justifies quitting before you start. But 5 minutes is not too much. Wash the plates in the sink, not the entire kitchen, is not too much. Your resistance loses power when you narrow the target. And if you're thinking, "But 5 minutes won't change my life," listen to me very closely. 5 minutes done every day will do more than 0 minutes planned perfectly. Consistency is where identity is built. Identity is what drives behavior. You can't become the kind of person who shows up by never showing up. You become that person in tiny, honest repetitions, not giant, fake promises. There is also a kind of love here, and I want you to feel it. Giving yourself orders is not cold. It's not cruel. It's care. It's you saying to yourself, I know you're tired. I know you're overwhelmed. I'm not going to ask you for the whole mountain right now. I'm just asking you to put one foot forward because I refuse to let you abandon yourself again. That's love. That's loyalty. That's standing next to yourself instead of watching yourself sink. People say, no one pushes me. No one motivates me. No one reminds me. You could be that person for yourself. You could become the one voice in your life that says, we move now, not tomorrow. Now, even small, even slow. We move. Let me ask you something that might sting a little. When you tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow, who are you hoping will save you overnight? Because no one's coming. No new version of you magically appears in your sleep. Tomorrow is just you again. Same brain, same patterns, same phone, same cravings. Waiting for tomorrow me to fix what today me keeps refusing to do is how people waste years. So from now on, when your mind starts giving you the excuses, I want you to do something that sounds almost too simple. I want you to talk to yourself out loud if you have to. Quiet voice, steady tone. Stand up. Then you stand. Open the thing. Then you open it. Do 5 minutes. Then you do 5 minutes. No discussion. No emotional debate. Action first. Feelings after. Because here is the truth that will change your life if you let it. You don't have to feel ready to act. You have to act to start feeling ready. And maybe that's where self-respect really begins. Not in how beautifully you speak about change, but in how quickly you move when it's time to act. 6. Talk to yourself in specifics, not drama. One of the quiet traps that keeps you stuck is vague self-talk. Emotional, dramatic, heavy, and useless. The kind of language that sounds intense, sounds powerful, sounds honest, but doesn't actually tell you anything you can work with. I ruin everything. I always mess it up. I'm never going to get it together. No one ever stays. My life is a disaster. Those lines feel real in the moment. They feel true because the emotion behind them is real. But if we look at them honestly, they're not information. They're theater. They're smoke. You can't build on smoke. When you talk to yourself in drama instead of detail, you create pain without creating direction. You make yourself feel worse, but you don't make yourself act better. And I want you to understand how damaging that is long-term. Because repeated emotional drama becomes identity, and identity becomes destiny. If you keep telling yourself, I ruin everything, your mind stops treating that sentence like a mood and starts treating it like a fact. And what do people do with facts? They stop fighting them. If I ruin everything is just who I am, then why try to protect anything? Why show up differently next time? Why hold yourself to a standard? You've already decided the ending. That's how hopelessness is born. Not from reality, from lazy, dramatic language that you repeat often enough that you start believing it. And I'm calling it lazy on purpose. Not because you're lazy as a person, but because drama is mentally cheap. It takes no effort to say, I always fail. It takes real effort to say, I went off my plan today at 4:20 p.m. after that argument, and instead of going for a walk like I said I would, I ordered junk and scrolled for 2 hours. That's where it broke. One of those lines hurts, but it teaches you something. The other one just hurts. This is the shift. Stop bleeding for effect and start reporting facts. If you want to respect yourself, talk to yourself in specifics. Specifics are how you get control back. Let's say you tell yourself, my life is a mess. Okay, mess where? Be very literal. Is the mess in your finances? Is it in your sleep schedule? Is it the food you're surviving on? Is it the people you're allowing back in? Is it time management? Is it emotional regulation? Is it your phone addiction? My life is a mess, is a storm cloud. I'm sleeping at 2 or 3 a.m. every night and waking up already late and stressed, is a location. Now we know where to work. Or you tell yourself, no one ever stays. That line sounds dramatic. It sounds like you're broken-hearted and cursed by fate. But slow down. Who specifically didn't stay? A partner? A friend? Family? Under what conditions? Did they walk away because you're unlovable? Or did they finally draw a line with behavior that, in your honest moments, you know is not healthy? Did they leave because you open your heart and always get betrayed? Or did they leave because you keep choosing people who are emotionally unavailable and then trying to force love out of them, like drawing water from stone? Do you see what I'm doing here? I'm making you slow down, take the emotion by the hand, and walk it into the light. Because in the light, it stops being a curse and starts being a pattern, and patterns can be changed. Here's another example. I'm lazy. You've said this to yourself, probably more than once. But what does lazy actually mean? Does it mean you literally never act? Or does it mean you procrastinate certain kinds of work because those tasks trigger something in you? Fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, fear of being seen trying. Does it mean you're mentally shut down because you're overstimulated all day and your brain is fried by the time you get to the tasks that matter? Does it mean you haven't eaten anything with real nutrition in 36 hours and you're calling low blood sugar lack of discipline? You see what I'm saying? Lazy is a blunt weapon. It just leaves bruises. But I avoid starting things that I might fail at because I don't want to feel embarrassed with myself. That's a map. That tells you exactly which wall you're up against. And yes, I know this is uncomfortable. Specifics force honesty. Drama lets you stay blurry. Blurry can feel safer. You can stay sad without changing when everything is just bad. But when you say out loud, I didn't do what I said I would do between 7 and 9 p.m. because I chose comfort over progress, now you're in the room with yourself. Now there's nowhere to hide. Now change is possible, but so is shame. So let's talk about that shame for a second, because this is where people run from specificity. They're scared that if they describe exactly what they did, they'll hate themselves. This is where the earlier points matter. You cannot do this from a place of self-attack. You have to do it from a place of coaching. You have to say, we're going to be specific, but we're not going to humiliate ourselves. We're going to observe this like scientists, not like bullies. We're collecting data to adjust the system, not to destroy the subject. That tone is everything. Because the goal of specific self-talk is not to hurt you more, it's to stop you from lying to yourself. I'm such a failure is a lie. I spent 4 hours avoiding the work I promised myself I'd do, and I'm not okay with that anymore, is the truth. And when you start talking to yourself in truth instead of drama, you start trusting yourself more. You start to believe your own voice. You start to believe, when I talk to myself, I'm going to get clarity, not chaos. I'm going to get direction, not explosions. And that is one of the most important shifts in your entire inner world. Because once you trust your own voice, you don't chase validation as much. You don't need everyone else to tell you who you are. You become your own reference point. There's something else too. Specific language gives you small targets, and small targets are how change becomes real in daily life. I need to fix my entire life is paralyzing. I need to stop bringing my phone to bed so I can fall asleep before midnight is doable. I need to heal emotionally is vague. I need to stop reaching out to people who only want me when they're bored is clear. Clear is painful sometimes, but it's also peaceful. You know what needs to go. So here's what I want you to start doing. The next time you hear yourself say something dramatic about yourself, I always, I never, everyone, no one, my whole life, I destroy everything. I want you to stop and correct it in real time. Gently, not with anger, with steadiness. Hold on, not always. Last night, not no one. This one person, not my whole life. This last month. You shrink the drama. You reveal the situation. And once it's just a situation, it can be handled. This is how you start becoming emotionally stable. Not by never feeling deeply. Feel deeply. Feel fully. You're alive. But you keep your words clean. You keep your mind honest. You refuse to make your lowest hour the definition of your entire existence. Ask yourself right now, how many of my beliefs about myself are just dramatic sentences I repeated until I got convinced? And if that question stings a little, good. That sting is the doorway out. 7. Hold yourself to standards you would respect in someone else. There is something you might not like admitting, but it's important. You actually admire discipline in other people. You admire consistency. You admire emotional control. You admire people who stay calm under pressure, who keep showing up, who don't lose themselves begging for attention, who carry themselves with quiet self-respect. When you see that in someone, you feel it. You respect it. You maybe even envy it a little. But here's the part that hurts. You admire it in them, but you don't demand it from you. You let yourself operate under rules you would never admire in someone else. You say it's fine to break promises to yourself, but you hate when others break promises to you. You say it's okay to go back to someone who disrespected you, but you say you'd never tolerate that if it was your friend. You say your lateness, your chaos, your emotional explosions are just how I am. But if you were dating someone with that same lack of control, you'd call it a red flag. We are all guilty of this double standard. We protect our comfort by lowering our own standards and then calling it self-acceptance. But it's not self-acceptance. It's self-abandonment. It's leaving yourself beneath the line you already know is worthy. And I want to be very clear here. This is not about perfection. This is not about becoming some cold, robotic, untouchable statue that never cracks. This is about asking a simple, quiet question. Would I respect me if I met me? Not, would I like me? Not, would people think I'm nice? Respect. Respect is different. Respect is, do I carry myself in a way that I would trust if I saw it in someone else? Let's go deeper. When you say you're going to do something, do you do it, or do you treat your own word like it's optional? Because you know what we call people who treat their own word like it's optional, unreliable. And you know what we do with unreliable people? We stop trusting them. We stop building with them. So ask yourself honestly, have you become someone you wouldn't build with? When you get angry, do you control your reaction? Or do you explode and then say, that's just how I express myself? Be honest. If someone else spoke to you with the same tone you use when you're triggered, would you feel safe with them? Or would you slowly pull back because deep down, you know that kind of anger isn't love, it's instability? When you're lonely, do you hold your line, or do you go back to what disrespects you just to feel wanted for 1 hour? And again, be honest. If your closest friend kept doing that, would you call that love? Or would you call that self-betrayal? This is where standards become love. Because people always talk about loving yourself, and it sounds nice, it sounds poetic, but here's a truth most people don't say out loud. Love without standards is not love. It's indulgence. It's addiction. Real love includes protection. Real love includes, no, we're not doing this to ourselves again. Real love includes, I care about you too much to let you live below what I know you're capable of. If you've ever watched someone you care about spiral, emotionally, physically, financially, relationally, you know that love is not just hugging them and saying, it's okay, you're perfect. Sometimes love is holding their face and saying, listen to me, you're better than this. Stop giving yourself away to people and habits that are killing you. That tone, firm, loyal, unshaking, that is how you need to start talking to yourself. You need to start being the person in your own life who demands better, because you deserve better. This is also how dignity grows. Quiet dignity. I'm not talking about ego. Ego is loud. Ego is insecure. Dignity is calm. Dignity lives in your posture, in the way you move, in the way you choose what you tolerate. Dignity says, I don't beg to be chosen. I don't chase disrespect. I don't hand over my self-respect to feel temporary comfort. I have a line. I keep that line. You respect that in others. You need to build it in yourself. And listen, this part might feel heavy, but it's important. If you keep accepting behavior from yourself that you would not respect in someone else, then you will never fully respect yourself. You can like yourself. You can hype yourself. You can post about self-love all you want. But deep down, you will know. You'll feel that gap between who you pretend to be and how you actually move. And that gap will eat you slowly. That quiet disappointment in yourself is one of the deepest forms of pain. So what do? You start small. You pick one standard, not 10, one. Maybe it's honesty. Maybe it's, when I say I'm done with someone who hurts me, I'm done. Maybe it's no more lying to myself about my habits. Maybe it's, I show up on time for my own life. Maybe it's, I take care of my body like it's a gift, not a trash bin. One standard. And you hold it every day, even on low days, especially on low days. Because standards don't mean anything if they only exist when you're in a good mood. Standards mean something when you're lonely, angry, triggered, tempted, tired. Standards are proven under pressure. And something beautiful happens when you start doing this. You begin to look at yourself with the same quiet respect you've had for other people. You start to trust yourself with your own future. You start to walk with a different energy, not louder, quieter, heavier, grounded. You stop performing confidence and you start carrying it. Ask yourself right now, with full honesty, no ego, would I respect me if I met me today? And if the answer is not fully, don't run from that. Don't turn it into shame. Let it be a message. Let it be a standard. Let it be the point where you finally say, I'm done accepting less from myself than what I admire in others. That moment, that quiet, private decision, is where self-respect starts to become non-negotiable. 8. Reward effort, not perfection. There's a lie that many of us swallowed without even noticing, and it's this. If it wasn't perfect, it was worthless. You weren't taught to value the attempt. You were taught to worship the flawless result. You were praised when you impressed people, not when you quietly showed up on a day you didn't want to. You were celebrated for the A, not for the night you were exhausted and still sat there trying to understand. You were loved for performance, not consistency. And now you do that to yourself. You act like showing up only counts if it looks beautiful. And that is destroying you. Because real growth is built out of ugly repetitions. It's built out of the days you don't post, the days nobody cheers, the days you do the work, and even you aren't impressed with it. Those days are not glamorous, so your mind says, this doesn't matter. But those days are the entire foundation of your future self. I'll tell you something that high-performing people eventually learn, sometimes painfully. Effort is the only part you control. Perfection is mostly fantasy. It's timing, luck, mood, environment, external judgment. You can do everything right and still not get the result you wanted. You can pour your whole heart into something and still feel like it didn't land. If you link your self-worth to outcomes, you're going to live emotionally unstable forever. Every win will make you feel invincible. Every imperfection will make you hate yourself. That's not growth. That's gambling with your peace. If you really want self-respect, you have to teach yourself to value effort first, to say, "I'm proud that I showed up," before you even look at the score. Now I know what some people think when they hear this. But if I'm proud of the effort, won't I get comfortable and stop pushing? Number. That's not how it works. That's how lazy people try to twist the idea. I'm not saying clap for bare minimum lies. I'm not saying say you tried when you didn't. I'm saying honor the truth when you actually push, when you actually lean into discomfort, when you actually do the thing you said you would do, even if it wasn't pretty. Because that moment is everything. That moment is identity. Your mind learns who you are based on how you act when it's uncomfortable. If every time it gets uncomfortable you quit and then insult yourself, your mind learns, we're the kind of person who bails. If every time it gets uncomfortable you keep going for a little longer and then say, good, we stayed in it, your mind learns, we're the kind of person who doesn't run. That identity is what will carry you on the next hard day. You are literally training your nervous system. Do we collapse here, or do we stay present here? This is not motivational theory. This is practical. Let's say you're trying to rebuild your body. You go to the gym. Your workout isn't great. You feel weak. You're distracted. You're slower than last week. You're annoyed. The judge voice in your head will say, pointless. Waste of time. You're not serious. Why even bother? That voice is trying to convince you that because today wasn't perfect, today didn't count. And if you believe that, you're in danger. Because if today doesn't count, why show up tomorrow? Do you see the trap? Now let's switch to the voice we're building, the voice that wants better. That voice says, you showed up at your worst. That matters. That's loyalty to yourself. Take the win. We'll tighten it tomorrow. Feel that. Do you feel how different that is? It doesn't lie. It doesn't say, that was amazing when it wasn't. It just says, you didn't abandon yourself. That sentence is fuel. You can build on that. And you need that fuel, because one of the most painful human experiences is this. You keep trying, but you never let yourself feel like you're progressing, so you're always emotionally starving, even while doing the work. You're always chasing a version of you that is never satisfied with you. That is how burnout shows up. Not just from working too hard, from working while telling yourself it's still not good enough to deserve any pride, any relief, any breath. At some point, you have to give yourself permission to say, I didn't quit today. Sometimes that is the win. I want to go deeper on this because there's something else here that's quiet but very real. A lot of people are not actually addicted to laziness. They're addicted to all or nothing. They only know two states. I'm perfect or I'm trash. So if they can't do perfect, they choose trash because at least trash is familiar. At least trash gives them a dramatic story to tell themselves. See, I'm just not built for this. It sounds sad, but it's actually comfortable, because if you're not built for this, you're free. You don't have to keep trying. You're off the hook. But if you drop all or nothing, you lose that excuse. You're left with something way more uncomfortable. Steady work, daily work, medium days, boring progress, quiet, private effort, repeated, no drama, no collapse, no perfection high, just you, doing what needs to be done and telling yourself, good, again, tomorrow. And for a lot of people, that's scarier than failure. Effort first is what keeps you in that steady zone. Effort first is what lets you say, today wasn't my best, but it was honest. I showed up honestly. That's rare. That's valuable. That deserves respect. And here's something I wish someone had said to you earlier in your life. You are allowed to be proud of effort. You don't need permission from anyone to be proud of yourself for trying clean, especially when no one was watching. That pride is not arrogance. That pride is nourishment. It's what keeps you alive in the process. I want you to imagine someone you genuinely care about, a younger brother, a younger sister, even a future child. Imagine they're trying to rebuild their life. Imagine they're tired, but they're trying. Would you look at them and say, not good enough? Try again when you're perfect? Or would you say, you showed up today. I'm proud of you. We'll sharpen it. Keep going. You already know the answer. You know how to love someone who's trying. You just don't talk to yourself that way yet. Start. Start telling yourself, I respect that you showed up. Start telling yourself, we're building consistency, not ego. Start telling yourself, we're not chasing a perfect day. We're building a solid life. Because when you start talking to yourself like that, something inside you relaxes. Not lazy relaxed, safe relaxed. And when you feel safe with yourself, you take more risks. You try more things. You go further. You stop quitting after one bad day, because one bad day doesn't become proof that you're hopeless. It just becomes one bad day. So ask yourself this and answer honestly. When you work, when you try, when you move toward better, do you ever tell yourself good job, even quietly? Or do you act like it's never enough? If it's never enough, understand this. You are starving the part of you that is actually saving you, and that has to stop. 9. Redefine weak moments as data double asterisk. Let me tell you something that can change your entire relationship with failure. Your worst moments are not proof that you're broken. They're information, they're maps, they're readouts of pressure. But most people don't treat them like that. Most people treat every weak moment like a final verdict on their whole character. You lose control and you snap at someone you care about, and instead of asking, why was I so triggered right then? What did I feel threatened by? You go straight to, I'm toxic. You break your own promise and go back to someone you swore you were done with, and instead of asking, what exact emotion hit me right before I reached for them? Was it loneliness? Was it panic? Was it fear of being forgotten? You go straight to, I'm pathetic. You overspend, you binge, you scroll until 3 a.m. And instead of asking, what was I trying not to feel in that moment? You go straight to, I have zero discipline. And that reaction feels like accountability. It feels like you're being honest with yourself, but it's not honesty. It's laziness dressed as honesty. Because I'm pathetic is not analysis. It's a shutdown. It's the end of the conversation. If you actually wanted to grow, you wouldn't stop there. You would study it. You would slow down and say, okay, that moment where I broke, what was happening in my body? Where was I? Who was I with? What time was it? How was my sleep? How was my stress? What was I saying to myself right before it happened? That's how you treat yourself if you want better. You investigate instead of insult. I'll tell you a secret about so-called weakness. It's almost never random. You slip in patterns, same hours, same environments, same emotional triggers, same people, same kind of comment that sets you off, same type of loneliness that makes you reach for the same distraction. You think you're out of control, but you're not as out of control as you think. You're predictable. You just haven't been paying attention. And that's hopeful. That means you can design around it. For example, if you always break at night when you're alone, then loneliness, not the person you text, not the food you order, not the app you open. Loneliness is the real problem. So punishing yourself for texting them won't fix it. You're treating the symptom. The real move is learning how to sit with loneliness without calling the past for relief. That's the muscle you need. If you always explode after long days, maybe anger isn't the core problem. Maybe it's depletion. Maybe you've been swallowing things all day, being strong, being polite, being fine. And then you hit that final straw and your body says, enough. And it all comes out at once, raw and ugly. So the work isn't stop being angry. The work is stop abandoning yourself all day and then resenting the world at night. If every time you try to work on your future, you suddenly need to clean, check your phone, scroll, snack, wander, suddenly become busy with something urgent, that's not random procrastination. That's fear. Fear of being seen trying, fear of seeing your real level, fear of failing honestly. You're protecting your ego by delaying the attempt. You're thinking, if I don't fully try, then I never have to fully confront whether I could have been great or not. That's not laziness. That's self-protection. And if you don't call it what it is, you'll never get past it. So here's what I want you to start doing in those so-called weak moments. Narrate them like a scientist, not like a judge, not like a victim, like a calm observer. I reached out to them at 11:47 p.m. after scrolling through old photos and feeling abandoned. I ate junk at 2 a.m. after a phone call that made me feel small. I blew up at my partner right after I felt ignored. I skipped the gym after 4 straight nights of bad sleep, not because I hate discipline, but because my body is running on fumes. Do you hear how different that sounds from I'm a mess? One keeps you blind, the other gives you a lever. Because once you can see clearly, you can prepare. If you know you collapse at night, build support for night. If you know you explode when you feel dismissed, build language to say, I felt ignored, before you reach the point of eruption. If you know loneliness sends you backward, create other responses to loneliness. Cold shower, breathing, journaling, go for a walk, text someone safe, listen to something that grounds you instead of something that feeds the craving. That's strategy. That's emotional engineering. That's how you stop repeating the same pain and calling it fate. And please hear this part with softness. You are not weak because you have breaking points. You are human because you have breaking points. Everyone has them. The ones who grow are not the ones who pretend they don't. The ones who grow are the ones who say, okay, this is where I tend to fall. I'm going to respect that. I'm going to design for that. You want to know what that is? That's love. That's maturity. That's being on your own side. So instead of, I failed again, I'm hopeless, I want you to start saying, I failed in the same spot. That spot needs reinforcement. That one shift pulls you out of shame and drops you into responsibility. Shame says, I am the problem. Responsibility says, this is the problem. Let's work on it. And maybe that's the beginning of real loyalty to yourself. Not saying, I'll never fall again, but saying, when I fall, I will not leave myself there. 10. Protect your self-talk from other people's voice. There's something I need you to accept, even if it's uncomfortable. Not every voice in your head is yours. Some of the lines you keep repeating to yourself didn't start with you. They were given to you, placed in you, thrown at you enough times that you stopped seeing them as opinions and started treating them like truth. You're too much. You're difficult. You're dramatic. You're lazy. You're never going to make it doing that. Be realistic. Who do you think you are? At some point, someone said something like that to you. A parent when they were angry, a partner when they felt insecure, a teacher who didn't see you, a friend who needed you smaller so they could feel bigger. Maybe they said it once. Maybe they said it 1,000 times. You absorbed it. And now, when you mess up, your own mind uses their words to attack you. That's not self-awareness. That's inherited damage. And it's time to clean it out. Because here's the truth. If the voice in your head sounds like someone who did not actually care about your growth, you should not be letting that voice lead your life. Think about this with me. When you fail, when you're vulnerable, when you're tired, who shows up in your mind first? Is it you, trying to understand yourself, trying to help yourself stand again? Or is it someone else, mocking you, shaming you, rolling their eyes at you inside your own skull? If it's someone else, that means you're not just dealing with your present struggle. You're dragging an old judge into every new moment. You're letting a past moment of disrespect repeat itself inside you over and over, even when that person is not here anymore, even when they have no access to you in real life. You're letting their voice run your inner world for free. That is not fair to you, and I want to be very direct. You cannot build a strong mind if the main voice inside that mind is hostile to you. You just can't. You will always feel unsafe. You will always feel tense. You will always hold yourself back because a part of you is still trying not to make them angry. Even if they're gone, even if they're not watching, you're still performing for a ghost. And a ghost should not have that much control over a living person. So let's do something that most people never do. Let's separate voices. The next time you hear that brutal internal line, "You're embarrassing," "You're never going to change," "You're nothing without me," "You can't do this alone," "Nobody's going to want you if you keep acting like this." Pause and ask, whose voice is that? Say it out loud if you have to. Whose voice is that? If the answer is, "That's not how I would speak to myself," that sounds like them, then you have already won something huge in that moment. You've exposed it. You've brought it into light. Because once you see that a thought is not actually yours, it loses authority. It's like realizing a fake security guard has been ordering you around. The second you see the badge is plastic, you stop obeying. And I know, some people will hear this and say, "But what if the harsh voice is telling me the truth? What if I really am the problem?" Let me respond to that in a way that protects you and challenges you at the same time. There is a difference between a voice that holds you accountable and a voice that wants you small. A voice that holds you accountable says, "We said we'd stop doing this. We didn't. We are fixing it tonight. We're done lying to ourselves." That's sharp, but it's loyal. It's trying to build you. A voice that wants you small says, "You see, you'll never be anything else. You're pathetic. Just accept it." That's not accountability. That's control. That's someone trying to keep you from ever realizing how powerful you could be without them. You feel the difference in your body. One makes you straighten a little. One makes you shrink. And here's where it gets even deeper. Sometimes the voice in your head that keeps you small doesn't even come from cruelty. Sometimes it comes from scared people. a parent who lived in survival mode, and every time you tried to dream bigger, they said, "Be realistic." They weren't trying to poison you, they were trying to protect you from disappointment. But if you swallowed that message enough times, you started to believe that wanting more was dangerous. You built a cage and called it being reasonable. So now, as an adult, every time you try to level up, you feel guilt, you feel wrong for wanting better, you feel like you're asking for too much. You sabotage your own rise because a part of you feels like growth is betrayal. You see how deep this goes? This is why talking to yourself like someone who wants better is not just motivational language. This is self-liberation. You are literally taking ownership of your mental space back. I want you to imagine your mind like a house. Some people still have a key. People who shouldn't. People who hurt you. People who didn't believe in you. People who only loved the version of you that was quiet, needy, soft, dependent, apologetic. And every time you have a weak moment, it's like they walk right back in, sit at the table, and start talking. You don't even realize you let them in. You think it's you. From now on, I want you to start changing that. I want you to be the one who answers the door. That means when the voice shows up, you say, "No, you don't talk to me anymore." Say it internally. Say it out loud if you're alone. "No, you don't talk to me anymore." You think that's nothing? Try it. The first time you do it, you will literally feel something shift in your chest, because your nervous system is not used to you defending yourself from yourself. It's used to you attacking yourself with their words. So when you finally interrupt it, it feels like oxygen. And then, and this part is important, you replace it. You don't leave silence. You speak. You say, "Here's how we talk to us now." Calm, steady, direct, yours. You say, "We're not useless. We're rebuilding." You say, "We're not desperate. We're healing." You say, "We're not hard to love. We're done accepting cheap versions of love." You say, "We're not weak. We're in recovery from years of carrying things alone." You say, "We're not done. This is not our finish point. This is not delusion. This is you refusing to let old voices define your future identity. Because if you don't do this, here's what will happen. And I want you to hear it clearly. You will outgrow environments, outgrow relationships, outgrow habits, but you will still live internally like the smaller version of you. You will drag that old script into every new chapter. You'll get new opportunities and still feel unworthy. You'll meet healthier people and still assume you're going to be abandoned. You'll start building something real and still talk to yourself like you're not qualified to live the life you're actually already earning. Has that been happening to you? Are you doing better than you used to, but still talking to yourself like you're that same broken version you swore you'd never be again? Because if so, that's not honesty. That's outdated programming. And I'm going to tell you something that maybe no one ever said to you in a serious way. You are allowed to update the way you talk to yourself when you evolve. You don't owe loyalty to the version of you that only knew survival. You're allowed to speak to yourself like you're becoming someone you respect. And maybe that's all healing really is. Not erasing what happened, not pretending it didn't hurt, but saying, "You don't get to narrate me anymore. I'll take it from here." 11. Talk to your future self with respect. There's a version of you you haven't met yet. A version of you who wakes up clearer, who is less reactive, who doesn't take bait every time someone tries to drag you into drama. A version of you who doesn't run back to what hurts, who doesn't beg to be seen, who doesn't buy peace with self-betrayal. A version of you who moves with a different kind of calm, not fake calm, not "I'm fine" calm, but real calm, earned calm, grounded calm. That person is real. That person is possible. But here's the question. Are you building for them, or are you dumping problems on them and hoping they fix it? Because a lot of what you call tomorrow is actually you leaving a mess for your future self to clean. I'll deal with it later. I'll heal later. I'll get serious later. I'll stop talking to them later. I'll start eating right later. I'll control my anger later. I'll save money later. It sounds harmless. It sounds patient. But if we strip the softness away and say it plainly, this is what it really means. I don't respect the future version of me enough to not hand them chaos. Imagine you share an apartment with someone, and every night you trash the kitchen, leave food everywhere, leave dishes soaking in the sink, leave stuff open, and then you leave a note that says, "Can you handle this in the morning? Thanks." That's what you're doing to your future self. You are leaving them stress. You are leaving them exhaustion. You are leaving them damage to undo. You are leaving them situations that will cost them time, emotion, and dignity. And then you say you love yourself. Loving yourself is not a feeling. Loving yourself is behavior. Loving yourself means you stop throwing your future self into fires you created just because you didn't feel like handling discomfort in the moment. Talk to yourself like someone who wants better means you start talking to the future you like someone you are responsible for protecting. I'm not going to text them tonight, not because I don't want to, but because I'm not going to hand tomorrow me that pain again. I'm washing these dishes now because I don't want tomorrow me to wake up already behind. I'm stopping at enough, not because I'm scared of pleasure, but because I don't want to hand tomorrow me a foggy head and a sick body. I'm walking away from this argument now, not because I lost, but because I refuse to hand tomorrow me a relationship that's even more damaged. Do you feel how different that sounds from discipline? It's not punishment, it's protection. And I'll tell you something personal, and I want you to let it land. A lot of your stress is not coming from what's happening today. It's coming from yesterday. You not caring about today you. You're cleaning what they left. You're calming what they stirred. You're repairing what they said in anger. You're apologizing for what they did when they were lonely. You're recovering from what they fed you when they were bored. And you're tired. Of course you're tired. You're carrying the weight of someone who didn't think about you when they acted. That needs to stop. Right now. Not in a dramatic, my whole life changes in one night kind of way. In small daily moments where you say, no, I'm not leaving this for future me. I'll take it now. I'll carry it now. I'll make the choice now. When you start doing that, something quiet and beautiful happens. You start to trust yourself forward in time. You start to believe that the person you're becoming is safe in your hands. You start to actually feel companionship with your own future. You stop feeling like you're dragging a tired body through life, and you start feeling like you're handing a gift forward, step by step. Here, I cleaned this for you. Here, I made this lighter. Here, I handled that conversation with dignity so you don't have to walk into it full of regret tomorrow. That is love. That is real self-love. Not cliches, not affirmations in the mirror with no action behind them. This quiet protection of the person you're going to be tomorrow. And I want you to hear this because it matters. When you start respecting your future self, you start making different choices in the present without needing to feel motivated. You don't need hype. You don't need to be in the mood. You just say, I'm not doing that to us. That alone is enough. And in that moment, your identity changes. You're no longer the person who is begging the world to treat you better while secretly mistreating yourself when no one's watching. You become the person who says, I guard my future. I don't abandon me. People feel that. People see that. That's where quiet confidence comes from. Not talk. Ritual. So I want you to ask yourself right now, without avoiding it, are you being fair to the person you're going to be next week, next month, next year? Or are you using them like a trash bin for everything you don't want to take responsibility for today? Because if you're doing that, I'll be honest with you, that is self-betrayal, and you deserve better than being betrayed by you. Maybe the most powerful sentence you can start telling yourself is this: I will not leave a mess for the person I'm becoming. Say it to yourself. Say it in the bathroom. Say it in the kitchen at midnight. Say it right before you're about to do the thing you know creates problems. I will not leave a mess for the person I'm becoming. That's respect. That's maturity. That's real self-protection. And maybe that's what healing actually is. Taking your future self's hand and saying, you're safe with me. I've got you now. 12. Close every day with one honest sentence. Before the day ends, before you numb yourself with noise, before you disappear into distraction, just so you don't have to feel anything, I want you to build one simple ritual, one sentence of truth, just one. Not a whole journal, not a 5-page reflection, not a speech. One honest sentence to yourself at the end of the day. Because the truth is, most people don't actually live their life. They run through it. They react, rush, cope, escape, repeat. Then they crash. Then they call that normal. Days blur, weeks blur, years blur. You keep telling yourself, I'm doing my best, or I'll fix it soon, or it'll calm down later. But you don't actually stop long enough to witness yourself. You don't even know what you're doing to yourself. You don't even know what you're carrying. You're just on autopilot. And autopilot can quietly ruin a person. That one sentence brings you back. That one sentence is you sitting with yourself at the edge of the day and saying, we're not going to lie tonight. Not to protect ego, not to make excuses, not to impress anyone. Just tell me the truth, so I can guide you better tomorrow. Now listen to me carefully, because this is important. That sentence is not, I'm horrible. That's not honesty. That's laziness. We already talked about that. That's just drama pretending to be depth. The sentence has to be something you can actually build from. It sounds like, I avoided what mattered today because I didn't want to feel uncomfortable. I ate like I didn't care about my body because I was angry and I wanted comfort more than health. I talked to them again even though I felt small the whole time. I did show up today. I didn't want to, but I did. I'm proud of that. I lost my temper and I hurt someone I actually love. I made progress. It wasn't pretty, but it was real. See how there's no performance in those lines? No fake confidence, no fake humility, no pretending to be a superhero, no pretending to be a victim, just reality. That's the point. You and you, face to face, with no mask. And I'll tell you why this matters so much. You cannot lead what you refuse to look at. If you don't face yourself, you cannot guide yourself. If you cannot guide yourself, you stay stuck. If you stay stuck long enough, you start believing stuck is just who I am. That's how identity dies, slowly, quietly, while you're scrolling. But the second you start ending your day with truth, even a small truth, you stop drifting. You grab the wheel again. You say, no, we're not just being pulled by whatever hits us anymore. We're going to be aware. We're going to be present. We're going to keep track of who we're becoming. And yes, sometimes that sentence will sting. Sometimes that sentence will expose something you didn't want to admit. Sometimes you'll hear yourself say, I disrespected myself today. and you'll feel it in your chest. Good. That's what it's supposed to do. That sting is how you stop repeating it tomorrow. That sting is clean. That sting is alive. It's not shame for the sake of pain. It's a signal. It's your own inner voice saying, "We don't like this. We're not doing this again." Other nights that sentence will feel like warmth. You'll say, "I kept my boundary today," and you'll actually feel safe with yourself for a second. You'll say, "I was calmer today than I would have been a year ago." And you'll feel proud in a way that nobody else even knows about. You'll say, "I almost broke, but I didn't go back to what hurts me." And you'll feel this quiet kind of dignity that is better than applause, better than validation, better than somebody texting you, "I'm proud of you." Because it's you. You are the one saying it. And if you've never felt that feeling of being proud of yourself in private, I want that for you. That feeling changes the way you walk in the world. You stop begging people to see your worth because you've witnessed it already. You stop chasing loud approval because you're already carrying quiet respect. You stop trying to look strong because you know you were strong when nobody was watching. That feeling is expensive. You earn it. You cannot fake it. You cannot post your way into it. You build it in these small moments of honest self-check. There's something else this habit does, and I need you to see it, because it's powerful. It prevents self-delusion. A lot of pain in life doesn't actually come from other people. It comes from how long you're willing to lie to yourself. "It's not that bad. I can control it. I'll stop soon. They didn't mean it. I'm fine." Meanwhile, you're bleeding. Meanwhile, you're waking up sick in your own spirit. Meanwhile, you're aging your nervous system like you're carrying war. When you force yourself, nightly, to say one honest sentence, lies don't live long. They get exposed fast. And when a lie gets exposed fast, it can't rot you from the inside. There is also something deeply stoic in this practice. The Stoics believed in examining the day, not from a place of self-hatred, but from clarity. Where did I act according to who I want to be? Where did I fall beneath that? Where do I correct? Not, "I'm horrible," but, "Here's where I wasn't aligned." I adjust tomorrow, calm, responsible, direct. That's what you're doing with this one sentence. You're checking alignment. You're saying, "Did I live today like someone who actually wants better for me?" Not, "Did I please everyone?" Not, "Did I look strong?" Not, "Did I avoid every uncomfortable emotion?" Just, "Did I take care of myself like I matter?" And here's the part that quietly shifts your entire identity. When you ask that question every night, you start living differently during the day. You start catching yourself in real time, in the argument, in the craving, in the laziness, in the excuse, and you hear a voice in the back of your head. "You're going to have to say this later. Are you okay saying this tonight?" That little moment of awareness will save you from so many "I wish I didn't do that" regrets. Because you won't want to sit there at 1 a.m. and say, "I gave myself away again." You won't want to sit there and say, "I lied to myself again." You won't want to sit there and say, "I abandoned my progress for a cheap hit of comfort." You'll feel that future conversation with yourself, and you'll choose differently now, in the moment. That's how you start steering in real time instead of apologizing afterward. And slowly, not all at once, but slowly, you become someone you trust. And when you trust yourself, you become calmer. And when you're calmer, you stop reacting to everything. And when you stop reacting to everything, your life stops feeling like chaos and starts feeling like direction. This is what "talk to yourself like someone who wants better" really means. It's not just be nice to yourself. Sometimes it's softness, yes. Sometimes you need to tell yourself, You're safe. Breathe. I've got you. But sometimes it's structure. Stand up. We're doing this now. Sometimes it's clarity. That wasn't love. Stop calling it love. Sometimes it's protection. We are not handing tomorrow me another mess. Sometimes it's self-respect. I'm done lowering my standards for myself while pretending I admire high standards in other people. Sometimes it's repair. We didn't do great today, but we're still here and we're not quitting on us. And under all of it, if you really listen, there's one message running through everything we've said. I will not abandon myself. That's it. That's the core. I will not abandon myself in my worst mood. I will not abandon myself in my weak moment. I will not abandon myself when I slip. I will not abandon myself when I'm lonely and craving attention. I will not abandon myself for cheap comfort. I will not abandon myself to old voices that want me small. I will not abandon myself to tomorrow just because today is heavy. When you live like that, you stop needing to feel worthy. You start acting like you are, and acting like you are consistently is what becomes worth. Maybe that's the whole point. Maybe becoming stronger isn't about building a version of you that never falls. Maybe it's about becoming the kind of person who every time you do fall, looks at yourself and says, I'm still here with you. We're getting up. We're going forward. I'm not leaving. And maybe that's all life is asking from you. When you really sit with all of this, there's a quiet truth that becomes hard to ignore. No one is coming to teach you how to speak to yourself. No one is coming to rewrite that voice in your head for you. People can inspire you, yes. They can motivate you, yes. They can shake you awake for a moment. But at the end of the day, when the room is dark and it's just you and your thoughts, you're the one who has to decide what kind of voice you live with. And that choice is not small. That choice decides almost everything, because your mind is the environment you live in, even more than the city you're in, the job you're in, the relationship you're in. You can leave a city, you can leave a job, you can leave a person. You can't leave your own head. You carry it everywhere. So if the voice in your head is cruel, unsafe, unstable, panicked, desperate for approval, easily manipulated, always comparing you to someone else, always reminding you of the worst version of you. It doesn't matter how beautiful your life looks from the outside. You will always feel unsteady inside it. You will always feel like you're standing on glass. But when that voice becomes steady, honest, protective, and demanding in the right way, when that voice says, we're not giving up here, we're going to treat ourselves with respect, we are not going to let pain turn us against ourselves. We're going to move forward even if today's step is small. Your whole inner world starts to feel safer. And when you feel safe inside yourself, you stop living on emotional alert. You stop panicking every time something shakes. You stop reacting to every little hit like it's the end of you. You become calmer, not because life got easy, but because you're finally led by something solid. That's the real power here. You become led. You stop being dragged by emotion, dragged by other people's opinions, dragged by old fear. You start being led by your own standard. You start choosing in a way that honors the person you're building, not just the feeling you're in right now. And that's when things begin to change in a way that actually lasts. You eat like you respect yourself, not because you hate your body, but because you're done treating your body like a trash bin. You set boundaries, not to win, but because you're done letting people rent space in your chest who don't even like you. You get up and do the work, not to impress anyone, but because you're not going to hand your future self a life you're ashamed of. You slow down before reacting, not because you're weak, but because you refuse to keep creating damage you'll have to fix tomorrow. And this isn't about becoming perfect. I hope you let that go. Perfection is a costume. People wear it to get applause. Then they go home and fall apart in the dark. You don't need that. You don't need a performance version of you. You need a loyal version of you. A version that tells the truth, owns the slip, corrects the pattern, protects the future, and doesn't leave. That's what I want you to leave with tonight. Don't leave yourself. When it's late and you're about to repeat something you'll regret, don't leave yourself. When you're sad and your mind starts lying to you about who you are, don't leave yourself. When you're lonely and you're about to run back to attention that hurts you, don't leave yourself. When you're disappointed in your own behavior and shame tells you you're hopeless, don't leave yourself. When you feel tired and useless and behind in life, don't leave yourself. Stay. Talk to yourself like someone who actually plans to see you win. Talk to yourself like someone who expects you to rise. Talk to yourself like someone who refuses to watch you burn just so you can keep people who wouldn't even put out the fire. Because the truth is, you are training your mind every single day to either be a place you can heal in or a place you keep trying to escape from. And you know this already. A person who can rest inside their own mind is dangerous. Calm. Hard to manipulate. Hard to guilt. Hard to shame. Not loud, not dramatic, just untouchable in the way that matters. Grounded, centered, not begging to be chosen. Choosing. So tonight, before you sleep, I want you to try something. Just one sentence quietly with full honesty. Did I treat myself today like someone I'm responsible for protecting? That's it. No overthinking it. No turning it into poetry. Just answer. And if the answer is no, then tomorrow is not about punishment. Tomorrow is about correction. We're going to do it different. We're not abandoning us again. If this landed with you, tell me in the comments. I want to know you're still here.